contest. Michael Rodman, what kind of leader will you be? What kind of leader will you be? Michael Rodman.
Walk into any bookstore, assuming you can still find a bookstore in 2018, and you'll see shelves full of books on leadership. Someone who wants to learn how to read, someone who wants to read to learn how to be a better leader would be hard-pressed to figure out where to start. I searched on Google Books and found over 24 million books on the subject. If you were to read 1,300 books a day, it would take you over 50 years to read them all. I've read a few books on leadership. Not 1,500 in one day. Okay, not 1,500 ever, but a few. And I've come to discover that there are three main types of leaders. There's the dictator, the inspiration, and the example. The dictator is interested in being in power, having control. Do what I say because I'm in charge. I'm the boss. Maybe you've worked with a dictator before. I know I have. And they've had two main things in common. First, their employees hate them because no matter how good or benevolent their intentions are, those under the subject of a dictatorship don't believe it. And second, they've often found that their teams are underperforming those of their peers. Those two factors will often lead a dictator to find themselves on the unemployment line. History has given us some examples of dictators as well. Julius Caesar from Rome, Benito Mussolini from Italy, and Mohammad Najibullah from Afghanistan. Now, as you know, Julius Caesar was stabbed by the Senate. Benito Mussolini was executed. His body was hung upside down and pummeled with rocks like some kind of demented piñata. That's not candy coming out. And Mohammad Najibullah was dragged behind a car until dead and then hung from a traffic post. You can choose to be a dictator if you want to, but you could find yourself murdered, or worse, out of a job. The inspirational leader is someone who is interested in inspiring you to be a better person and helping you to achieve your goals. I've worked with a few of them as well. One of them was convinced that if he helped people to achieve their goals, he would naturally achieve his. Curtis took time to get to know my strengths and my weaknesses, to help me identify my goals and my dreams for the future, and then figure out how to get there. He recommended some of those books I talked about earlier on Google, so I had a good place to start with my reading. And then he suggested that I join an organization where I could practice public speaking and leadership skills. Curtis was so inspirational to me, I got 20 people together at work and we started a Toastmasters club without ever having been to a Toastmasters meeting. The example is often overlooked, and they're okay with that. You may not even think of them as a leader. Their goal is to focus on being a good person, on living the values that they want to see in the world. But just like water erodes away the land until a grand canyon is formed, an inspirational leader changes the people around them over time as well. An example changes the people around them as well. I remember one special day when I was 7. My dad had been away for a while and I got to spend the whole day with him. He took me out and I got the best cherry Coke I'd ever had. The little bubbles tickled my nose, and when I looked down in the glass, there was a cherry in it. It was so sweet. And we pulled off on the side of the road and he went out into this building and he said he'd be right back. And as I sat there for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, suddenly that cherry Coke became very bitter. My dad was in the bar getting drunk with his friends instead of spending the day with me. Fortunately for my dad and I, we had a good example in the form of Bill. And when my dad was young, his father had died, and Bill stepped in to help raise him. He was a kind-hearted, gentle, unassuming man who just wanted to make sure that my dad had a positive role model in his life. And when my dad was battling with alcoholism, I spent many nights on Bill's couch. He would take me to the arcade. It was there that I one day realized the effect that Bill had had on me. I was playing one of those racing games, driving through town much faster than it's safe to do in a real car. I took this corner too fast, crashed into the side of a building. And I said something I shouldn't have said. Immediately I knew this was not the language that Bill would approve of. He'd never talked to me about cursing, but he lived a life with such peace in his heart that it would never occur to him to curse. I learned peace and love from Bill's good example. And my dad, he learned from Bill's example too. He turned his life around. He got over alcoholism and became a good part of my life. And then when I had kids, he was able to be a part of their lives as well. My dad's example taught me it's never too late to change. So if you want to be a dictator, go ahead. You may not like the results of that choice, but you're welcome to do that. Or if you want to be an inspirational leader, you are a leader. You may want to be a better leader by reading books or joining an organization where you can practice leadership skills. But even if you don't want to be a better leader, you are an example to someone. You are an example to someone, Rich. Maybe even someone in this room. You could choose to be a bad example or a good example. And whatever you choose, it's never too late to change. What kind of leader will you be, Mr. Toastmaster?